Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour at the beginning of a local shelter-in-place order to help people remain connected in one of the oldest ways known to our species, telling one another stories around the fire. So here we are, several months later, still sheltering in stories together. Welcome back to those of you who are returning, and welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. This week's format is the same. Two writers, no Q&A, and a short PSA for a nonprofit or two. You can keep up to date about upcoming authors at storyhour2020.com and see programs you may have missed at the Story Hour page on Facebook. Tonight's readers are my co-host Daniel Marcus and Karen Osborne. I can say your name, honest Karen. If you are fortunate enough to help others during this time, please consider a donation to one or both of our two featured nonprofits, the Union of Concerned Scientists and Weekend Backpacks for Homeless Kids. The Union of Concerned Scientists is a national nonprofit organization founded more than 50 years ago by scientists and students at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Its mission? To use rigorous, independent science to solve our planet's most pressing problems. Joining with people across the country, UCS combines technical analysis and effective advocacy to create innovative, practical solutions for a healthy, safe, and sustainable future. You can learn more online at ucsusa.org. There are more than 3,000 homeless children in Baltimore City schools. The largest number are in kindergarten and first grades. Baltimore City has no state or federally funded weekend feeding programs for school children. Hungry children incur delays in their physical, intellectual, and emotional development. The mission of Weekend Backpacks for Homeless Kids is to provide nourishment to vulnerable youth in Baltimore City in order to foster their academic success. You can learn more online at weekendbackpacks.org. If you're here on Zoom, please mute your mic now. Please feel free to leave your camera on. It can be very nice for our readers to actually see their audience. And chime in on the text chat if you like. If you are joining us on Facebook, thank you. We're so glad you're here, but we do not see your messages. So our first reader tonight is Karen Osborne. Karen is a writer, visual storyteller, and violinist. Her short fiction appears in Uncanny, Fireside, Escape Pod, Robot Dinosaurs, and Beneath Ceaseless Skies. She is a member of the DC, Maryland-based Homespun Kaylee Band, MCs the Charm City Spec reading series, and once won a major event filmmaking award for taping a Klingon wedding. Her debut novel, Architects of Memory, is forthcoming on September 8th from Tor Books. Oh, look at that cover. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's beautiful.
September 8th. September 8th. This is my other baby. My first baby is asleep downstairs, but this is my other baby. And it is out on September 8th from your local indie bookstore, wherever that may be.
Wonderful. Karen, thank you for joining us tonight. What story do you have for us?
I am going to read The Two-Bullet War, which was published in Beneath Ceaseless Skies on May 23rd, 2019. And begin?
Please.
Okay. The Queen lay dying. She had wrapped herself in a nest of wrinkled sheets on the floor of the cathedral, stinking and sweating, her claw-like hands shaking, fluid collecting at the back of her throat. In the loft, a choir howled. They had been singing for hours, and the soloist was hoarse. Mila knelt just north of the Queen's gray head, the diamond bullets that made up her last duty to the Liege of Sadarkana heavy in her pocket. As the Queen's chosen gun, it was her duty to witness this. Mila had spent so much time at the Queen's side that to be anywhere else felt like heresy. This was what her queen, Dara Harris, had wanted, to die not in the arena, but in the Black Cathedral, surrounded by her sons and her life's work, with music in the air. As usual, the princes were ruining it. "We need to discuss what's next," said Dar Karsten, the king's youngest son. Dar Aladar looked up from his mother's glassy eyes and the hand he'd used to stroke her thinning, slush-gray hair. He was the elder son, peaked and pinched, with the unhealthy, wavering shoulders of someone who hadn't seen the comfort of a bed in days. You can't even wait until she dies? The princes were twins, wrath-sworn and dark-haired, each possessed of a starving ambition. Mila watched them with the distaste she'd held for them during her entire service as their mother's gun. Aladar knelt hunched and pale at his mother's side, rising only to drink water from a chalice held by an exhausted soldier. Karsten was only as dutiful as he needed to be. Too rattled to stand silent vigil, he muttered and cleared his throat, pacing the cavernous distance between his mother's body and the iron cathedral door, his footsteps a violent staccato drumbeat. Mila's stomach churned. This was not at all where she hoped the conversation would go. When she'd become Queen's gun, she had, in effect, chosen the place she would die, at her Queen's side if it came down to blood and bullets. Mila was well aware of the symbolism of one of the mountain folk taking a pledge to die for the Valley Queen and ensure her line of succession. The Queen's confident step towards reunification of the two countries was half the reason she'd said yes, and half the reason she'd loved her so deeply. Valley and mountain, Sadarkana and Starogard, Mila knew, as the Queen had known before the cancer took her, that the only way forward for each country was together. I want to wait. Karsten ran a hand through his hair. Stinking liquor sloshed over the side of the chalice he held, and the droplets caught the sunshine coming through the wall of lights before splashing on the floor. It was still early enough in the morning that sunlight poured through the wall in 100 individual shards, bathing and piercing the princes, the gun, and the dying queen. One shard each for every ruler that had once taken their last breath here. You want to, but... Aladar sounded suspicious. I just don't think that's a very good idea for us or for the country. Karsten took another swig. The people need to know who their leader will be, after all. It had been some relief to know that once the Queen passed, Mila could step back, breathe, and let someone else take up her fell responsibility. She could go back to the trial arena, back to the role of judge and executioner and interpreter of the law, back to Iselin and his warm embrace. She would not have to wonder what it would be like to let a bullet punch through her ribs, to endure her heart pumping out onto the sand like one of the common traitors that came before her for their last breath. She would no longer have to put up being called that mountain woman in council sessions. And there was the matter of Iselin, her second, their warm secret, the one Mila couldn't tell anyone while the Queen was alive, not while Mila's heart was supposed to be sworn entirely to the Queen. My prince, Mila said, I do think this is a matter best saved for... Aladar's hand slipped off his back where it formed a white, tight-knuckled fist only Mila could see, cutting her off. Mother's death won't change a thing, Karsten. I will be king. You may threaten civil war all you like. I will have the army. The immigrants stay. The mountain door is open for more. Our mother's work will continue under my hand. Not if I contest your claim in the open arena. The arena? Like we're common criminals. Aladar's jaw worked in shock. I'm older than you. Do you want to die? Older by seconds. I have far more support amongst the people than you think. The blood of a few or the blood of thousands. Karsten drained his cup. You choose. Minutes. You'd stake your life on this? Said Aladar, his voice aghast. Wouldn't you? Does mother mean so little to you? Does the crown? Of course she means the world to me, but what you're asking, he pointed at Mila. You might as well ask the gun to shoot me right here. Mila kept herself still like a statue, like the weapon she was supposed to be, even though inside she was screaming, no, I will not. You can't just ask me to do that. The law is the law. Not that she expected Karsten to follow any laws that he didn't find convenient. Weapons did not have choices, did not speak aside from the roar of a spark against gunpowder or the click of a trigger. But she had to stop this before it ruined everything. If you think your rule would be the best for their country, I think the two of you should take your cases to the ruling council, Mila said. Avoid any bloodshed at all. It's not your country, Karsten spat in Mila's direction. Despite the bluster, he stalked the area below the stairs as if he were frightened of the beer, his brother, his tightening, complicated future. His hands slipped in and out of his pockets, wrung in front of his blood-red tabard, wiped sweat from his shadowed temple. This country decides matters on the sands of the arena, and do not presume to understand my mother. I expected better of you, Gun, disrespecting our sacred tradition, disrespecting the dark hearts. Hold on, Aladar said. Mila spent more time around Mother than either of us. I think it's safe to say that she has an idea about the kind of society we're building. Carson stopped mid-step. He looked like his twin, all black shadows and crags, a hungry mirror of a starving man. That is Mother, he said, pointing at the Queen's shuddering form. She can't even speak. She can't even move. And what has she done? The sorcerer on the mountain is very much alive and will make a move as soon as she dies. Are you ready for that, Allie? The Queen's thin body convulsed below Mila. She left the princes to circle each other like hungry vultures and knelt, laying her hand on the Queen's forehead. The Queen blinked at her, her thin lips open, slight and sandy, revealing a blood-parched mouth and a dry, struggling tongue. She whispered, but her words were lost in choir song. I'm here, said Mila. The Queen's eyes were lambent. For the first time in days, her hand was cold parchment. In the Queen's eyes, Mila saw the kindness she would not see in her son's. For the first time in her long career as gun, as judge, jury, executioner, bodyguard, sacrifice, Mila could say she was afraid. He must not rule, the Queen coughed. I was a terrible mother. I could not shift his soul. Mila, whatever you do, he must not rule. If he invokes the arena, there's nothing I can do. I tried to fix him, the Queen wheezed. I tried. She shuddered once more, then went still. The focus left her eyes and the tension leached from her hand, and Mila grasped it tighter, feeling the birdsong bones beneath, but her Queen had slipped away. This body was nothing more than meat to bury, like any criminal laying bloody and bent on the arena floor. The princes had not seen their mother die. Karsten's lips were curled an inch from Aladar's face. The people don't think you have the balls to rule. The people think you're dangerous. Your Mounties aren't people. Mila stroked the inside of the Queen's wrist one last time in the vain search for the drumbeat of her heart. All that was left was a collapsed void and blood that had gone from sluggish to still. Anger soaked Mila's body, trickling down her spine until she was shaking. The Queen is dead, she whispered. Neither brother heard. She called again, the Queen is dead, and the soldiers behind her understood, and they reached into their pockets to draw up black scraps of mourning fabric to tie around their wrists. Mila called one last time, but the brothers' anger broke against each other like brawling winds against the mountain crags. Neither would listen to the other or to her. The sorcerer's madness had begun like this, a desperate and blind scramble for purity and riches and power over others. Had it come to the valley with the hundreds of starving refugees down the mountain in a steady flow until the valley rivers blackened like the ones above, until the valley drank of fear and hate just like her homeland had? Or had it always been like this, back into the time before the first split of mountain and valley? Mila shuddered to her feet. If the brothers would not listen, she would still discharge her last duties as gun without them. She flipped the peace bond from her pearl-handled executioner's gun, feeling the hilt warm against the sweat of her palm, and reached for the diamond bullet in the pouch near her heart. She was the only one allowed to carry this revolver, a weapon custom-made for ensuring succession. It held just two kinds of bullets, the diamonds that marked the end of a monarch's reign, and the dark hearts that were linked to the succession process. She would now fire at the wall, so the Queen's diamond soul would be buried there, light shining on in her descendants until darkness came for the world. The Queen is dead, Mila shouted and fired. The gun bucked into the palm of her hand, violent. Something inside jammed, and the kickback was stronger than she expected. It dropped to the floor, bouncing off the Queen's dead forehead, glitter trailing from the barrel. No new diamonds shone, soul bright, in the wall. The bullet had shattered. The brothers had stopped shouting at each other. Carson was white-faced. Aladar was a cholinergic scarlet. Their eyes fell to their dead mother and her still chest and the tracery of glitter around her head. You kept me from being with her when, whispered Aladar. Don't be a baby. It's a sign. It means nothing. Mila's mouth was a hollering desert. The words that came next were rote from months of practice. Dar Aladar, Prince of Sadarkana, your honored mother is dead, and you are our new king. We will proceed from here to the palace where... Stop, Mila. It's already gone too far, said Karsten. The choir had stopped singing with the gunshot. They stood in the balcony, their eyes agape, aware of the enormity of what they were witnessing. The brothers, too, had come to some sort of silent understanding, and they shuffled closer. If you do this, Aladar said to Karsten, if you stand over her dead body and do this, look at her, stand next to her, and say with a straight face that you want to start a civil war. For a moment, Mila thought that Karsten wasn't going to move, that he was going to back down. He swallowed and he wrung his hands once more, and he stared down at his mother. Mila saw him break a moment, saw his eyes fill with water and something softly black before he wiped the still forming tears away from the back of his hand. Mila couldn't help but think about her own mother, young and death white on the mountain snowbank in the blind winter. She'd been alone and too weak to bury her, and they had been so close to Sadarkana that she could smell the smoke from the valley factories. For a moment, she thought that she could understand Karsten, could possibly reach his hate-caught brain with a word of peace, reach him not as mountain folk to valley dweller, but human to human. And she opened her mouth to say that she had lost her mother too, a long time ago. Karsten cleared his throat, slaughtering that fantasy. I formally dispute your claim to be king of Sadarkana, he said quietly. Mila thought there might be regret there, until his face hardened with clear purpose, like a diamond in a wall. Aladar nodded. He straightened his shoulders. His voice went plain, formal. I will not force Mila into this. I will choose her second, Rias Iselin, to stand for me. No, not Iselin. Karsten's eyes flickered over to Mila. Then Mila, he said, will be mine. She might be a Mountie, but she can shoot. You're a real dick, you know that, whispered Aladar. Mila's world went white. Her hand went to her gun just as Karsten twisted around to stand right in front of her, his breath liquor-haunted spittle hitting her cheek. Don't, he whispered. You won't win, said Mila. Karsten simply smiled with straight white teeth. Both brothers turned to leave, Karsten towards the front of the cathedral and Aladar towards the back. As the great iron doors opened and sunlight spread over the body in the sanctuary, Mila could hear the bells echoing from the top of the hill to the depths of the harbor. The queen is dead, she imagined them singing, and all hell is following. By the time Mila returned to the gun house, the machinery of a proper succession crisis was in motion. The city of Sadarkana lay scared and serious, hanging breathless over a black precipice. The gun house car and its escorts pushed through the gray reek of downtown, driving by starveling groups of Aladari clashing with riotous Karstania supporters, mountain folk and valley dwellers both. There were people from all sides of the city pouring drunken and mourning into low street bars and red-clad brawlers scattering blood and broken teeth on the street. Mila shivered. Perhaps in the hearts of the valley, the war had begun months ago, and nothing she arranged now would make a damned bit of difference. This car, the last car she'd ride in, the first of many lasts she'd have today, kept a polished dead animal smell, and the chauffeur was young. Mila's eyes met his in the rearview mirror, then darted away. The boy's foot felt heavy on the gas, the engine stuttering as he pushed the car into the avenue. He was afraid of her. He should be. Mila was met in the wide asphalt gun yard by a worried, hangdog detachment of aides who had already been informed of Karsten's decision to challenge his brother's legitimacy. They rushed Mila to the chapel where the dark heart bullets were already waiting, flanked by exhausted red tabard guards keeping watch in case of tampering. She gave herself a private moment with the bullets, marveling at the metalwork, the machinery, the way the impact in a human body would crack bone, rip through arteries and organs and cartilage, decide the future of a million souls. These bullets were paired with torques that the brothers would wear the next day. A dark heart that buried itself in human flesh would loosen a bright wave that would kill the brother in question. It was the only way to mediate a succession crisis without a war. It was traditional, unquestionable, absolute as a gunshot to the head. The gun hands gathered and filed into the chapel, dark-haired haunted Iselin at the end of the line trying to avoid his due, and third-ranked Galerin behind looking pale and nervous, his eyes darting from Mila to Iselin. The gun hands tried not to stare at Mila as they shuffled to the front, eyes dark and shaded. Few spoke. There was nothing to say. Good luck, Mila? No. Good luck, Mila meant that Karsten would be king, and Karsten would tear apart everything the gun hands installed by Queen Harris had built. The last hope they had for some sort of better life. But what choice did they have other than to follow the ancient ways? What choice did they have between peace and war? except some of them did whisper, "You deserve this," with their valley faces lined in a tight, lucid madness Mila had forgotten about, as if some of these people, brothers and sisters that have broken bread with her and fought by her side, had suddenly pushed her into a dark, mirrored lake where up was down and sideways was correct. Each gun hand came to the front of the chapel. Each gun hand kissed Mila's tightened knuckles and tilted their palms open towards Iselin and the dark hearts and the ancient litany of submission to the will of the Dar. Every time Mila felt a burning ache in her chest, sweat on her palms, something sharp and keen her mother used to call instinct, back on the mountain when there were wolves in the forest and sorcerers on the roads. The last gun hand was Iselin. He opened her hand and kissed her palm, his lips warm and dry and full of promise. She met his eyes and returned the gesture. They were smoke gray and sunk in fear. She suddenly wanted to be anywhere else, somewhere else, as long as it was with him. "Someone might hear," Mila whispered. "I don't care," Iselin said, slamming the door to her room. Mila thought of arguing, of telling him that they needed to make a plan to ensure Aladar's success in the arena the next day, a plan that kept both of them alive. But then he was too busy pushing her shoulders against the wooden door and his lips against her neck, and she closed her eyes, a wild hunger curling in her belly, her hands scrambling for purchase on his hips. "This is wrong," she whispered, thinking of the Queen's dead eyes, the bloody conflict brewing outside the gunhouse walls, the rules that forbade their connection. The friend saying, "You deserve this," as if a valley man and a mountain woman could tear apart the skin of the world simply because they loved each other. "You're my wife. It can't ever be wrong," he replied, his hands warm against her skin, and for a while, Mila thought of nothing but him. Afterwards, Iselin lay with his head a welcome weight on her shoulder, and she twirled his long black hair around her index finger, feeling her heartbeat where the tight curl cut off her circulation. The thought of Aladar had crawled back into the room like a ghost from a broken hallway. Was this what it was like on the mountain? "Did you really feel like this all the time?" he asked. "I got away. That's what matters. I don't want to talk about it," Mila wanted to say, like she always had. But she swallowed against a dry, angry throat. Truth was what mattered now. "Colder in every way," she whispered, the curve of her aching body pressed against the bulwark of his. "The wind never stops blowing. Brother steps out against brother. The only will that matters is the will of the sorcerer. There are so many reasons why we had to go. I would rather die than return, than see the valley turned into that." She pushed herself up. "Lynn, when I'm gone, I want you to promise me something." "When you're gone?" He clutched at her hip, and she felt the thin, terrified impact of his nails, like he'd just realized why she was shivering. "No, I don't know how I would live if I lost you." "You'll have to. Aladar must win tomorrow. There's only one way to make sure that happens." "I know a man at the Scoured Gate. You can go after midnight. You can be far away from here by morning." "And then what happens?" He blinked. "And then you live." "I meant, what happens to you?" She tossed the covers at him, then reached for her tunic where she'd balled it up and thrown it on the floor. "If I go, you'll rise to first gun hand. Galarin will be second. What if he wins? You're saying that you're going to let me live with the fact that I got you killed? You say that's a horror you can't handle for yourself, and you want to give that to me to carry until I die?" "That's not what I meant." The grief tightened in her throat, then broke over the words that followed. "I made vows. The valley is my home. You're my home. Until I walk out there on the sand tomorrow, until they paint me with his colors and put that gun in my hand, I am still sworn to the Queen. I can't trust any of the others to ensure that the right son wins. I can only trust you." Hang on, I pressed the wrong button. "I can only trust you." She was building something better. And the only way forward for a future that includes everyone is Aladar. And what about us? Our future? Mila opened her mouth to say something, but tasted only dust. Iselin's fingers closed on her shoulder, vice tight. "I can beat Galarin. He's a fantastic duelist. I don't think you can." "It's our only choice," Iselin said. "No, it's not," she snapped. "Don't you even care what I want?" "I didn't say that." "You did when you refused me a choice, just like Karsten, just like Aladar." like a Harris. Mila rolled over, tugging the tunic over her head, then slipped her feet into her shoes. She'd wondered about what her last night would be like, ever since they'd placed her first stunner in her hands and sent her to petty crimes 14 years ago. She thought she'd spend her last night in prayer, maybe writing letters, not halfway to hell in bed with a man who should have been forbidden to her, arguing over how to fix a succession trial. We could both leave, he whispered. She froze. Freedom, she thought. But the moment's taste of mountain air ceded to the dust of the gun yard, the cold barrel of an executioner's gun against her forehead. And when they come for us? Iselin's eyes fell to the floor. They won't. Throwing a match, refusing to fight. They're capital offenses, Lynn. Not even Aladar can let that go, especially when things are the way they are. And when they come for us, we won't even get in the arena. It'll be 2 bullets in the head in the gunhouse yard and left for the crows. Iselin shuddered, closed his eyes, then moved in the bed, throwing his arms around her waist, kissing the dip of her lower back. Then we make it look like the duel wasn't rigged. We pull our triggers at the same time. We're good enough. We won't miss. If there's no way out, then there's no way out. She froze. The thought of it chilled her fingers straight, caught her trembling. Her mind spun out with the implications. Both princes, dead, would leave the succession to the queen's older cousin, a man who had kept carefully out of politics when she took the throne to avoid the very issue facing the princes today, to avoid the dark hearts and their dark work. He spent most of his time on an estate in one of the southern rural holdings. Mila had no idea if he would side with Karsten or Aladar on the matter of reunification. He did not belong to any of the councils, so she couldn't even guess. Another thing she'd have to leave up to chance. That's not good enough, she said. I promised the queen that I'd do better than that. That's all we have. It's a beggar's choice, I know, he whispered. It's all right, Mila responded. I've only ever made one good choice in my life, Lynn, and that was you. You are good enough that I can live with it. She turned and pressed her finger against his lips. It's a plan. We'll pull our triggers at the same time. Elect the cousin. We need to talk about when... Shh. She reached for his hand and settled into the curve of his arm. If tonight is all we have, let's leave tomorrow for tomorrow. The howl of the crowds in the arena, the curl of her bare toes against the hot sand, the scalding sun wielding above. These were the things that Mila knew and loved. They were scant comfort now. The pearl-handled executioner's gun lay cold and heavy in her palm as she walked out onto the sand. The weapon was old as the hell it came from, perhaps, or at least as old as the half-true tales upon which the sprawling spider sun of the valley was built. She clutched it tight, let her hand remember the weight, the heft, the warming hilt, the dread, and breathed, coming to terms with what she was about to do. Across the expanse was her opponent. Stripped to the waist, Iselin's familiar body shone bright against the mid-morning sun, and the light caught his long black hair. He wore the sky blue of the Dar Aladar slapped across his chest in hasty brushstrokes. Mila had allowed the aides to paint her hair and neck with the sin-soaked scarlet of Dar Karsten. She did not want to go to her grave wearing the clothes of a man who courted genocide, but she had no say in the matter. She was a gun. Her body had not been hers for years. Above Iselin, she could see the Dar brothers, each draped in royal rich velvet, even in the summer heat, each wearing the red gold torques that were the other half of the dark heart mechanism. Karsten's mouth was curled in a hungry half smile, while Aladar looked sweaty and sick, wringing his hands and staring anywhere but at his brother. Behind him was the cousin, stooped and bored, giving no indication as to which side he supported. The great horn sounded, and a hush fell over the audience like a leaden blanket. Mila curled her toes into the sand and made her way to the mark. Iselin's eyes were locked on her as she walked, like this was only a few weeks ago at their illegal wedding, like she was walking onto the village green with only homeless mountain folk as witnesses, flowers in her hair, as if she and Iselin had years, not seconds, in front of them. I love you, he mouthed, and we'll be together soon. The grand horn sounded. Mila took a deep breath. Sweet, smoky city air, smelling of coal and salt and human stink. Matching Iselin, she raised her gun. She had so much to say to the nervous congregation, half of them baying for blood and half of them sobbing for peace. Peace is not peace when you live on your knees. We're dying from 1,000 years of this cancer of hate, of exclusion, of this sinful divorce. And you would make it worse. You would keep your warm houses and turn your backs on those who need you most. You would make that terrible choice when you have so many better ones. You're leaving this up to me because you're all too cowardly to change any of it yourselves, if not for the Queen. But she only had one breath left and no microphone. And when she opened her mouth, she tasted the ocean, and the salt on her tongue was so beautiful she lost her bead on the slick expanse of Iselin's painted chest. Not that it would matter in a moment, but it could. It could matter. Mila felt sudden light coursing through her fingertips, the thrill of a greater power than she'd ever had before, greater than any individual life or any single death, a power as wide as history itself. She stared across at Iselin, at his steady shoulders, at his clean hands. He could handle a life without her, couldn't he? A life in King Aladar's echo, the eternal ravenous slog that was the course of peace. The Queen had trusted Mila to continue her life's work. She'd have to do it in any way possible, through the terrible new task that was forming behind her eyes right now. It was the only way. Iselin crooked his finger on the trigger of his gun, and she heard the crack of ignition. Mila turned her shoulders at the very last moment, and with an aim fashioned from 20 years in the arena, tilted her gun up and to the right, towards the royal box. Iselin's bullet hit wide, notching the sand inches from her left foot. Karsten's body jerked once in the grand royal box, an arc of blood spattering the sky, a dark, wet starburst against his scarlet coat and bare shock in his eyes. He wavered for a moment, then toppled over the side of the wall. The new king, his cheeks spattered with his brother's blood, blinked vacant shock at the blank space beside him, then crawled at his face, succeeded only in smearing it in scarlet. Mila opened her mouth to call out to Iselin. She was drowned out by the screaming. She should have known there'd be screaming. Iselin barreled towards her with his gun glinting in the noon-high wailing sun, then came to a skidding halt. Mila heard the clamor of weapons being readied behind her and the press of angry shadows. Iselin stared over her shoulder, choking down some kind of savage calculation, choosing instead to drop his gun to the ground. I won't do it, he said. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You'll have to, for them, Mila said, her eyes going to the stands, the fleeing populace, the crowds wearing scarlet and blue. So they never have to run, never have to hate. The shadows moved behind her. Familiar gun hands covered her mouth, pulled her down, and chained her right there in the sand. When they dragged her away, she was smiling.
Yeah. Killer. Wow.
That was fantastic, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That was great.
Yeah. Yes, well, boy, I'm still very full of that story. We do have another reader tonight, and that is Daniel Marcus. Daniel Marcus is the founder and host of Story Hour. His fiction has appeared in many genre and literary venues, including Asimov's, Afanasov, Aeon, my printer is bad, Skull, Witness, and Ziziva. Some of these stories were collected in Binding Energy, described by Salon.com as a cross between Raymond Carver and William Gibson. He is also the author of the novels Burn Rate and A Crack in Everything. He has taught fiction writing at the UC Berkeley Extension and Gotham Writers Workshop and was shortlisted for the John W. Campbell Award for Best New Writer when it was still called the John W. Campbell Award. Daniel, what do you have for us today?
I have a story called Bright Moment. This first appeared in Fantasy and Science Fiction. Then it was reissued as an audio presentation by Escape Pod. And it is going to appear again early in 2021 as the centerpiece for my new short story collection called Bright Moment and Others, coming from Wordfire Press.
Wonderful.
Ooh.
Let's
and it's about, as far as the genre is concerned, it's about as far the opposite end as it could be from Karen's story, but there's some odd, as there always is in the programs we have, Some interesting synchronicities. So here we go, bright moment. Arun floated in the ammonia swells, one arm around the buoyant power sled, waiting. He'd blocked all his feeds and chats, public and private, and silenced his alerts. He felt deliciously alone. His ears were filled with the murmuring white noise of his own blood flow, intimate and oceanic, pulsing with his heartbeat. Metis was a bright diamond directly overhead. Athena hung just above the near flat horizon, her rings a plated bow spanning the purple sky. Persistent storms pocked her striated surface, appearing deceptively static from 30 kiloclicks out. Arun had negotiated the edge walls of those storms more than once, setting up metahelium deep mining rigs. A host of descriptive words came to mind, but static was not among them. The sea undulated slowly in the low G, about 0.6 standard. The distant shape of a skyhook was traced out by a pearl string of lights reaching up from the horizon and disappearing into distance haze, blinking in synchronization to suggest upwards motion. The skyhook was the only point of reference for scale. He shuddered involuntarily. His E-field distributed warmth to his body extremities from the tiny pack at the small of his back and maintained his blood oxygenation, but bobbing in the swell, alone in the vast ammonia sea, he felt cold and a little dizzy. He wanted to breathe and felt a fleeting instant of lizard brain panic. The current began to tug at his feet long before he saw the humped swell bowing the horizon upwards, a slight backward drift accelerating slowly. His heart beat faster as he clambered belly down onto the power sled. He drifted back towards the swell, slowly at first, then faster. He looked over his shoulder at the rising wall of liquid. It appeared solid, like moving metal, completely blocking the sky. He imagined he could feel wind tugging at his E-field. Arun felt a vibration through the power sled, a vast, low-frequency murmur, the world ocean getting ready to kick his ass. Just as he was about to be sucked beneath the monstrous swell, he activated the sled. He surged forward and stood as the sled began to accelerate up the face of the wave. He felt the sled stabilizers groaning beneath his feet as he sought balance on the flat surface. The wave steepened, hurtling him forward. He could just make out the landmass upon which this immense wave would break. Brooklyn was the moon's only continent, a million square clicks of frozen nothing. He estimated his height now at half a click, his forward speed about 100 meters per second. A fine mist of icy driving sleet surrounded him, melting to slush as it touched his E-field and whipped past his face. Blobs of static discharge, pale blue and luminous, flickered around him. His vertical position had stabilized about 3/4 of the way up the face of the wave. The power sled's gyros did most of the balancing work, but he kept his eyes fixed on the distant, blinking skyhook lights, shifting his stance as perturbations in the flow jostled his footing. He figured he had about a minute before he had to ditch or be dashed against the shore when the wave broke. His E-field's impact system would prevent major injury, but he'd be black and blue for a week. Worst case, a month in the tank and restoration from backup. He'd only had one full restore several years back after his single ship's drive went unstable, and it was disconcerting, a huge unrecoverable swath cut from his life. It was routine as an eye replacement for some people, but he didn't like it at all. His peripheral vision registered motion, a vast dark shape beneath the wall of ammonia to his left. He didn't want to take his eyes away from the skyhook lights, but he sneaked a look. Nothing. Just a shimmering solid wall of liquid. He returned his gaze forward, sought and locked onto the skyhook lights. There, again, a flicker of something huge hovering beneath the glassy surface. He looked again, and for the barest flicker of an instant, he saw it, a tapered 50-meter bullet trailing a bundle of tentacles, a quartet of glassy black orbs framing the rounded front of the thing. Eyes. He was sure of it. He lost his footing, and the wave took him. Arun rose through veiled layers of consciousness, gauzy memories, caressing him with feather touches and drifting away like smoke. He was a child on Luna, outside for the first time, learning to suppress the choke reflex while the E-field oxygenated his blood. The sky was huge and black, dusted with bright, steady points. Terra was a mottled brown marble. Pain woke him to a large pale face hanging over his like a translucent moon. The gentle, silken murmur of her voice took him back under. The next time he awoke, Ko was there. He imagined that he felt her presence before he opened his eyes, stern, concerned, an undercurrent of agitation. His eyes felt gritty. He opened them cautiously. He was in zero-G, swaddled and tethered. He recognized the light green bio walls of the clinic at Athena Station glowing faintly. The far wall was transparent and filtered. Athena hung mottled and beautiful, suspended in blackness, her ring system covering half the sky. Above Athena, the lacy spiderwork of docks surrounding the Metis wormhole rotated slowly. He was banged up, he knew that much. Gel covered half his jaw and cheek, analgesic and colony nutrient. Pain lanced up his body. He risked a glance down. His left leg ended neatly just below the knee. Beneath it, growing from the stump, a pink stub glistened with more gel. Wow, he croaked. Ko nodded without smiling. Wow, indeed. I'd kick your ass if there was anything left to kick. He started to smile and regretted it instantly. Fuck. It came out sounding like fudge. He tried to sub-vocalize his credentials to a shared channel, but the ether was dead. She nodded. No implants yet. Your nervous system needs an absence of distraction to heal the mess you've made of yourself. They wanted to restore you from backup into a noob, but I wouldn't let them. Thank you. Arun closed his eyes and darkness took him again into velvet arms. As his senses fell away, he saw it again, hovering effortlessly behind a shimmering wall of liquid, sleek body rippling peristaltically and buffeting slightly, its sensory nodes, eyes, huge, black, depthless. This time, he came fully awake almost immediately. He felt acute pain in his jaw, his side, and his leg. His leg! It had grown several inches since he'd seen it last and now sported 5 stubby bumps that would become toes. It hurt like a bastard. A surface burning all over the new growth and a bone-deep ache coming from a phantom location several inches below it. He tried to call out, emitting only a raspy croak. The medic's avatar appeared almost immediately, hovering in front of him, a vaguely pretty middle-aged woman with a round face and shaved head. She was a mind, of course. Arun recalled that she had chosen the unlikely name Wheat. Hello, Arun, she said. Welcome back. Her voice was low and liquid. She pointed to a tube near his head. Take some water. He took a sip and tried speaking again, a little more carefully this time. Thanks. She floated there waiting, her broad features impassive, but for a hint of amusement in her large brown eyes. Any questions? She said finally. Arun laughed and pain flared from his jaw and burst inside his skull. He squeezed his eyes shut and saw purple blotches swimming before him. Wheat floated closer. I'm sorry, Arun. I'll try not to make you laugh. She paused a beat. Do you have any idea how angry Ko is? Well, I can imagine. I'll bet you can. She glided back a bit. Okay, inventory. You lost a leg. Your liver was destroyed. You fractured your skull. Badly, it turns out. You actually lost some brain tissue. Oh, and you broke your jaw in 3 places. I wanted to just dump your latest snapshot into a new body, but Ko wouldn't let me. Good, he said emphatically. How did I lose the leg? Your E-field was breached when the impact systems kicked in. Snipped your leg clean off when it restored itself. What the hell were you thinking? He shrugged carefully. Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Do you know what a Darwin Award is? Nope. You should read more cultural history. Anyway, your new liver is in place, about half size and growing nicely. Don't drink any alcohol for a while. I've got colonies working on your fractures. If you stay out of gravity wells, your leg should be ready in a week. And if you want, I can do something about your testosterone problem. No, that's Suddenly, he remembered the shape. He looked at her. I saw something. She tilted her head quizzically. He imagined her reaction, the furrowed brow, the gentle half smile. Maybe slip him a seed colony of serotogeneric neurons. Keep it close to the chest for now, he thought. Gotta talk to Ko. Never mind, he said. She arched her eyebrows slightly. He smiled weakly. I'm tired. Wheat nodded. You rest then. I'll tell Ko you're back among the living. Her avatar winked out. Wheat. She reappeared, hovering in the doorframe. My ether implants. When? There was an odd flicker in her eyes, then it was gone. Soon, Arun. I'll tell Ko you're up and around. He lost his diurnal sense, but he thought about 2 days passed before Ko showed up. He did the exercises that were assigned to him, began eating solid food, well, paste, on the second day, read and scanned from the slate Wheat brought him, and slept a lot. The pain was spiky, and he had the worst of it blocked, but Wheat wouldn't let him off the hook entirely, saying pain was part of the healing process. He missed the aether badly, but Wheat continued to deflect his questions. He awoke from a fitful doze to find Ko perched next to his webbing, looking at him with a slight frown. Hey, he said. Hey yourself, she replied, and leaned over to kiss him. He could see a tension, though, in the way she carried herself. I've been here a lot, but you've been under most of the time. I know, I remember you talking about kicking my ass. Well, I have to ask, what were you thinking? Arun chuckled. Wheat asked me the same thing. You really want to know? I really want to know. I was thinking, as far back as when we got the first imaging, the click high waves, I was thinking, damn, it would be really cool to surf one of those. He looked at him. She looked at him impassively for a long moment. That's it? That's all you've got? Yeah, pretty deep, huh? You realize you've set us back about a month. Everything's waiting on your simulations, not to mention everybody's been worried sick about you. You owe a huge debt to Wheat. She hasn't let anybody near you. He smiled ruefully. Yeah, well, medics. I'm really sorry, Ko. I thought the sled's going to keep me stabilized, and if I wipe out, no big deal. No big deal. She pushed herself back, hovered in front of him like a pissed off samurai angel, her dark hair floating around her head. You know something about systems engineering, if I recall. Risks are multiplicative. You slam it to solid rock at 100 meters a second, ticking off her fingers, in a methane atmosphere, and it's 150 Kelvin outside. Something's going to go wrong. It was stupid. Epically so. He paused a beat. But it was really fucking cool. Ko almost smiled, then caught herself. Got you, Arun said. They looked at each other for a long moment. Ko, yeah? I saw something. Just before I wiped out, I saw something. What do you mean? There's life down there, Ko. Her eyes narrowed. It was in the wave, riding it just like me, about 50 meters long, very aerodynamic, squid-like, cluster of tentacles at the back and a pair of stabilizer fins, 4 sensory organs at the front end, bilaterally symmetric. I got a good look at it. That's how I wiped out. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I lost my footing. Well, we've taken samples. Yeah, nothing. Far as we could tell, the ammonia ocean's a desert, completely barren. What about all the mapping? We scanned to pick up huge density gradients so we could map the ocean floor. The scans wouldn't pick up life forms. You know what this means. Yeah, there's got to be a whole biosphere down there. Maybe localized to volcanic vents in the seafloor, more trace compounds, richer organics. That's why we never picked up anything in the samples. They were all near the surface. So what was your squid doing up there? Arun shrugged. Maybe he got lost. Maybe he thought it was really fucking cool too. Who knows? I'll tell you something though. We go through with terraforming Erichthonius and we're wiping all that out. She was silent for a long moment. You're sure about this? Maybe you were hemoglobin deprived, hallucinating. Arun shook his head. No way. No way. Well, you're going to have to verify and validate, tweak the density, redo the scans. Good thinking about the vents. See if you can concentrate some resolution down there. I'll get on the Ansible to corporate and see what they have to say. She looked at him long and hard, and he got that feeling again that she had something else on her mind. Okay, what? Ko shrugged. This probably isn't a great time to tell you. Tell me what? There's no way to make this easy. Periphery is divorcing you. The fuck are you talking about? He realized instantly, though, that he'd known it all along, that they were waiting to tell him before he redrew his aether implants. It's no good, Arun. You don't need us. But this, she waved her hand and began drifting across the room. She kicked off the floor and floated back to his webbing. This adventure of yours, it's a case in point. You shut us all out. You shut us out. And we're supposed to be okay with that? And it's not like that was the first time. You don't need us. He thought back to the calm, centered feeling he had, a tiny speck floating in the vast ammonia ocean, dwarfed beneath Athena's huge bulk. Nothing in his ears but the sound of his own blood flow. It was a perfect moment. Do you feel the same way? She sighed. You know I love you. I always will, but you married into a pod, not just me. And the dynamic has to be there, or at least it has to be fixable for everybody. I mean, come on. This can't possibly be news to you. He thought of them, visualized them in his mind's eye the way he saw them in the ether. Ko's presence, tightly focused and diamond bright. Andrew, full of contradictions, a bumbling puppy with a scorpion tail. Sarah, a soft, pulsing blob, golden toned and full of nurturing warmth, surrounding a secret walled-off place that few ever saw, even her podmates. Jacob, all planes and angles, Cartesian simplicity and denial, toe-to-toe, because nothing is ever really linear. He wondered how he looked to them. But it was always mainly Ko for him. Ko, his partner in crime for back in grad school. Ko, his friend, his lover, his boss. Ko, who'd brought him into Periphery and advocated tirelessly for him when things got rough. They were both so strong-willed. It was a miracle that their friendship had endured for so long. But her strength was like tempered steel, his like the green sapling that bends but does not break. It had always worked somehow. They'd always worked, at least until Periphery. He blinked away tears. No, I guess not. Ko bent over to kiss his forehead. Rest up now. Wheat says you're ready to go back to work. So do the scan, check the vents. Rockland back on Terra sent you some notes in the ignition model through the Ansible I want you to fold into your simulations. We've got some lost ground to reclaim. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small vial. He knew without having to ask that it was the colony that would build his aether implants. Nanomachines would thread his brain with microfilament receptors, program him with communication protocols and the somatic interface. But there would be no periphery channel, no always on, no constant presence of other souls joined with his. He sucked down the contents of the vial. It left a bitter chemical taste at the back of his throat. Thanks, he said. I'll ping you in a day or so. She kissed him again, pushed off his webbing with her foot, and floated out of the room without looking back. The door irised shut behind her. Recipe, Earth-like planet. Ingredients, gas giant, Jovian planet, rings optional. Frozen-ass Jovian moon, nickel iron core, 0.5 Terran mass or greater. Virtual tokamak and attendant virtual flux plumbing. Metahelium as needed for power. H2O and CO2 ice. Photosynthetic nanomachine colonies. Spaceships and stuff. Steps. 1. Scoop hydrogen from the Jovian's atmosphere and contain it with a virtual tokamak. The field generators should be at the L4 and L5 Lagrange points of the system you're about to create. L3 is a good spot for the hydrogen scoop. The Lagrange potential wells will shift and deepen as mass accretes, and their position will stabilize by the time your pocket sun becomes operational. 2, compress the hydrogen until it ignites. 3, adjust the hydrogen flux from the Jovian and your new sun's distance from the moon until Terran temperatures and ranges are achieved. 4, wait for ammonia oceans, methane ice, and other really cold stuff to boil away. 5, drop about 10 to the 20th kilos of H2O and CO2 ice down the moon's gravity well. Don't worry about exact measurements here. The resulting seismic and volcanic activity should shake loose a bunch of nitrogen as well. You're going to want that later. 6, season liberally with photosynthetic nanomachines. 7, go do something else for a while. Go do something else. This may take a while. Arun floated alone in the simulacrum. The animation was looped. The repetition was meditation for him. Slender filaments of luminous gas spiraling from Athena and converging to a bright fuzzy cloud near Erichthonius. The cloud condensing, collapsing, brightening until it ignites in a blaze of white light that dwarfs Athena, dwarfs Metis. Cheesy inspirational orchestral music swelling, rising. Slow zoom to the moon's storm-racked surface now, ammonia oceans boiling, churning. Pull back through the roiling atmosphere, past the pocket baby sun to a stately swarm of icy asteroids sliding inexorably down the moon's gravity well. The impact explosions are visible from 100 kiloclicks out, violently transforming their kinetic energy into great gouts of flame and superheated steam. The music is staccato now, pounding and elemental. Cut to silence. And a lone cylinder spinning end over end in space, corporate logo plainly visible, heading towards the battered moon. The cylinder dwindles, disappears from view. There's a very long pause, and just when you think there's something wrong with the feed, Erichthonius' gray marbled surface explodes in vibrant blue, green, and white. Fade to black. Paused. Then the loop begins again, and we fade into Athena pinned to the void, slender filaments of luminous gas spiraling out from her banded surface. It was complete bullshit, of course. Marketecture, an animated ducky horsey diagram for the shareholders. The real work lay in the physics models. This was Arun's comfort zone, his sweet spot, the arcane worlds of ignition thresholds, phase maps, stability analyses. But he loved the simulacrum. It reminded him of what he was doing. It helped him define himself. His pain was down to a dull ache where the new liver was coming in. He still had some difficulty with solid food, and his new leg wasn't quite grown, although it was strong enough to help with maneuvering in zero G. He was healing, and he was broken. He saw Ko a couple of times, and it was cordial, professional. He missed Periphery badly, but not as badly as he feared he might. He stayed to the public info channels on the Aether and defaulted everything else to auto-reply. Sarah came in from the nearly operational L4 field generator to see him and spent the night. It was bittersweet, a mercy fuck, and they both knew it, but they played it out, she the healer and he the wounded, and it was all right. He saw her off at the docking platform. As he watched her single ship recede to a point and vanish in the starry void, he wondered if he would ever see her again. Athena Station was basically a small town, and everybody knew everybody else's business. People we passed in the corridors were painfully kind, and eventually he stopped going out. He worked 18-hour days, stopping only to eat, bathe, and sleep, burning the candle at both ends, but he figured candles were made that way for a reason. Are we ready? Ko asked. They were perched in webbing near the top of the lounge, a hemispherical room capped with a transparent E-field so it appeared open to space. Single ships and utility barges floated overhead on various errands. Metis was behind Athena, and her shadowy bulk hung directly overhead. They sipped station-brewed beer from bulbs and nibbled sticks of salted jicama flavored with lime. The place was about half full. Arun saw several people look in their direction, then look away. The models check out. We can start the L3 scoop anytime, but I don't see how. First things first, Arun, the ignition models. We don't want another Titan. No shit, he said. Co, the models are solid and it works in the lab. We induce a bit of excitation in the injection streams, a little energy radiates away and we inhibit pre-ignition. It'll work, no doubt about that. And we'll be able to control it, but she held her hand up. I know, you're Squid. What have you got? He tapped his slate and pulled up a graphic. You can see the points cluster near the bottom following the vents. They're moving too, independent of current drift. He tapped the slate twice. You pull back and you can see a few loners here and there, like my guy, but they mostly hang together. He looked at her. They're social animals, Co. He waited for a response, but she wasn't giving him anything. You're not gonna fucking believe this. He tapped an icon on the screen. Listen. There was a high-pitched ratcheting sound, followed by a series of low clicks and whistles, then a long sustained tone that modulated slowly into two separate voices. Another voice joined in, weaving harmonies and polyrhythms in with the first. It went on like that for nearly 10 minutes, some parts repeating, then branching off into new patterns, then returning to an earlier motif. Arun watched Co as they listened. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Finally, she held up her hand. Okay, I get it. Whale song, like the humpbacks. Fine. She closed her eyes and stroked her forehead, her other hand still held aloft, palm out as if warding him off. Co. She didn't seem to hear him. Co. Finally, she looked up. How long have you known? He asked. She sighed. Just after your accident. I told the board about your close encounter, and they weren't at all surprised. Said they've known there was some kind of biosphere down here since just about day one. Nothing like this, though. She nodded towards the slate. The recording had looped back to the beginning, and the haunting tapestry of sound was building again. She shook her head. But it doesn't matter. What do you mean? Please don't get stupid on me, Arun. What do you think I mean? What are we going to do? Pick up our toys and go home? This can't be stopped. There's too much riding on it. Co, this is it. First contact. Our first intelligent XTs. How we handle this will define who we are as a species from this point on. And we're going to wipe them out because we need the real estate? She nodded, biting her lip. I don't like it any more than you do, but yeah, pretty much. They looked at each other for a long time. Well, shit, he said finally. I always knew you were management material, but you've really surpassed my expectations. Are you done? I'm sorry about your Squid, I really am. We've got a lot of work to do, and I need to know if I can count on you. Her face was hard and set, her eyes unreadable. He had a snapshot memory of her back in grad school shortly after they became lovers. They were sitting in a cafe in Barsoom a few years before the dome collapsed. Olympus Mons filled the sky behind her. He'd fallen in love with her for her fierce intelligence, but in that moment, she was open, vulnerable, and warm. And he remembered a small shock of wonder that here was a side of her that he had never seen. Now again, he was seeing a new aspect of her. The calculating technocrat in full flower, proxy for the corporate intent. He wondered if he'd ever really known her. A barge bristling with grappling cranes floated slowly overhead, so close he felt he could have reached out and touched it. Yeah, Co, he said. You can count on me. Arun logged a lot of single ship hours, traveling between the field generators of what would be L4 and L5 of the new system, the hydrogen scoop at L3, the receiving docks at Metis Wormhole, and Athena Station, making final preparations. He did not see Sarah during his visit to the L4 facility, which is just as well. He relished the solitude of transit. He liked to clear the hull. He was ensconced within the immensity of space. He emptied his mind of thought and felt something close to peace. Other times, drifting between stations, he would play the animation, The new system formed around him, the slow accretion, the bright moment of ignition, chaos, destruction, rebirth. It reminded him of what he was doing and reaffirmed who he was. Finally, everything was ready. Arun took a single ship one last time down to the moon's world ocean, slipped into the ammonia swells and clambered aboard his power sled. There was very little haze. Athena was huge and bright, her surface busy and florid, her rings a bridge to heaven. Metis was a painfully bright spark pinned to the purple bowl of the sky. It was time. He opened a broadcast channel and began to speak. This is Arun Dhillon. I alone am responsible for what I am about to tell you. There is a breach in the metahelium containment field at the Metis wormhole. In approximately 10 hours, it will completely rupture, resulting in a 5 gigaton thermonuclear explosion that will collapse the singularity, preventing all subsequent travel to and from the Metis system. The event will also destroy Athena Station and the Lagrange facilities. There is plenty of time for all staff and their families to evacuate through the Metis wormhole if you mobilize immediately. I pray that you do, and I thank each and all of you for the privilege of working with you these last few years. Goodbye and good luck. He shut down all his feeds and sent a home directive to a single ship. It would dock itself just in time to be vaporized. The ocean rocked him, and he felt no pain, no regrets. He dozed off and was awakened by a gentle but perceptible swell. He looked down. He couldn't see more than a few meters, but imagined far below a huge shape gliding through the shadowy depths. He waited, hoping it would return, but it did not. Exhaustion overtook him, and he slept again, more deeply this time. He dreamt he was in the simulacrum, whirls of gas surrounding him, converging, condensing, collapsing, and he awoke to brightness, the actinic glare of a new sun swelling in the sky. It outshone Metis, outshone Athena, bathing the undulating ocean in white radiance. Then it softened and attenuated, collapsing back through the spectrum to a dull red glow. The end.
Ooh, wow.
There was a lot of thematic resonance between these two stories.
Yeah.
A lot. Wow. Thank you both so much. I'm really overwhelmed by the stories we've had this evening. Everyone, we had Karen Osborne and Daniel Marcus. Thank you both so much for sharing your stories with us. Next week, we're going to have Barbara Barnett and a mystery reader. And I'd also like to thank all of you who joined us here tonight. Thank you for doing what Daniel always calls spinning the fictive dream together. Thank you. This is Story Hour.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Good night.